Great. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, the United Nations Human Settlements Program, UN Habitat, is gearing towards hosting the first ever assembly in Nairobi next week. This even as statistics indicate that 34% of Kenyan population live in urban areas with a 5% growth per annum. The UN Habitat further indicates that 6.4 million Kenyans live in urban slums, with the year 2050 projected as a period in which 50% of Kenyans will be living in urban areas. The theme of this year's assembly is innovation for a better quality of life in cities and communities, accelerated implementation of the new urban agenda towards achievement of the sustainable development goals. Now, in studio with us today to help us understand the significance of this conference is Ms. Maimuna Mohammed Sharif, the Executive Director of the UN Habitat. Welcome, Madam, to our studios. We're pleased to have you today. Now, in light of the statistics that we just read out there, and those living in places like Nairobi worry about issues around urbanization, but why is this issue of urbanization really important to everyone, Madam?
Thank you very much, Grace, for having me here. Sure. This afternoon. Habaria Azuhuri. Yeah, I'm very grateful.
Azuhuri, yes.
I'm very grateful to you and also to the government of Kenya and to the member state for this first ever UN Habitat Assembly after being working very hard to get our governance structures endorsed by the General Assembly for the past 14 years.
Sure.
And 27 to the 31st of May will be the first Habitat Assembly in Gigiri Complex in Kenya. I think this is very, very important because UN Habitat Assembly is the highest level of decision making in UN when you talk about urbanization. As you mentioned just now, why is it so important about urbanization? This is because in terms of urbanization, by 2030 is 2/3 of the world population will live in urban areas. The moment they live in the urban areas, they need a lot of facilities in terms of housing, in terms of basic facilities, amenities like water, electricity, and job. And also in terms of health and education. I think that is the reason why UN Habitat together with the member state agreed to have the theme of the first Habitat Assembly as innovation to provide the quality of life for people in the cities and communities, because urbanization is not only in the city area, we also have to see the linkage between the rural and the urban continuum.
Sure.
That's why I think this is very important. We have to make our cities right, because the fall or the win of the getting the sustainable development goal achieved is in the cities. Sure. And also in the human settlement. That is why it's so important, the topic of urbanization being discussed at this high-level discussion during the Habitat Assembly.
Sure. Now, I'm aware of various UN Habitat projects, for instance, in Kenya, in places like Mavoko, which is in Machakos County, in Turkana, Kisumu, Kiambu, Kisii, and so on. But now, I'd like to know how you, as the UN Habitat partner with various governments to provide safe and affordable houses. For instance, in Kenya, with affordable housing being one of President Uhuru Kenyatta's Big Four agenda. So how do you partner with various governments to ensure this?
Yeah, when I met the Honorable Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta during the World Habitat Day last year, we talked about the program of Kenya's, the Big Four. One of it is the affordable housing, as you mentioned. And immediately, I set up the task force within UN Habitat with various experts that we have to work together with the Ministry of Housing and also sit together with the PS and the CS and dealing and also working and within the committee. And we give partnership in terms of giving the experts advice, giving the concept, and also giving the element of innovation in the affordable housing, because I believe that when you talk about affordable housing, we must meet. I always mention that we must meet the 3 A's, which is affordable housing. It must be affordable, must be accessible, and also must be adequate. So this is very, very important. And since working together with the Ministry of Housing on the affordable housing, UN Habitat, we have a piece of land is in Mombasa, and we are now work in progress discussing with the government of Kenya and also the ministry how we can partner and work together in providing the affordable housing for the people of Kenya.
Sure. Let's talk about the slum upgrading program, and not only in Kenya but across Africa, because this is really a problem. Now, is it the solution to housing problems in Africa? Because I remember, was it last week when you had a conference and CS James Macharia was in attendance, of course, ahead of the assembly, which is taking place next week, and he did mention about 488 slums across the country. Now, that is in Kenya alone. But is slum upgrading a program the solution to this problem across Africa?
Yeah, UN Habitat, we have a specific program, we call it participatory slum upgrading. And now we have to go beyond upgrading. If possible, we would like to go slum prevention. And how we can look into that, that is where the needs of having the integrated and holistic sustainable development plan. I shared this with the CS that day, and also last year, we already launched the Habitat Country Program for Kenya, putting up the priorities and also the ways to tackle the overall, including slum. And for Kenya itself, that we have worked very closely in Matare and also in Kibera, and we work actually together with the youth. Is mostly on the solid waste management, because we would like to provide a better quality of life in terms of cleanliness. And we work with the youth. We have the youth center there, and also with the Kibera youth. And I think they are already making a lot of progress, where they have a upcycling. They convert the recycling material into a product which is saleable. And in other countries, we through the participatory slum upgrading, we have also worked not only in Kenya but other part of the Africa, and also in other cities and other countries, because not only Africa, other cities also have the slum.
Sure.
And to me, one of the things that when you talk about the affordable housing, that's the reason why I mentioned about it must be accessible. Why I meant accessible is that when you have affordable housing, which is maybe 20 kilometers from the workplace, it won't work. And there will be a slum created just next to the workplace. So that's the reason why the importance of integrated, where is the workplace is also where there is affordable housing, and it must be adequate, otherwise it will be another slum being created. This is the advice that we are working together, and the concept that working together with the government of Kenya.
Sure. Still on slum upgrading,
yes.
and specifically talking about the pilot that was in Kibera slums, as you did say, which is actually one of the largest slums in Africa. How far are you with that?
In Kibera, we putting in already. If you go to Kibera, they already have the road. You know, at least they have an access to their house, and they already recently we together with the Nairobi City Council did a massive cleanup, and apart from that, it's not only the physical cleanup. We also have the capacity building, because if you keep on cleaning but the people keep on throwing, it also doesn't make any difference. So capacity building, education, and we hope that we can scale up our program through our collaboration between the member state and also with the people of Kibera. And we also have a program, another program in Kenya is Dendora. there is one area where we work together with the people in the area, and we have a public engagement, and we also convert the landfill, the rubbish dump into public spaces when we involve together with the people. And then Dora won the Dubai Award. And they went to Dubai to collect the award. So I think this is also to show that is working together with the people. They have the sense of belonging. They really love they're really proud of what they are doing, and hoping that these best practices will be replicated in other part of the areas in Nairobi and also in Africa.
Great. Now, before we get to the summit scheduled for next week, Monday, right,
Yes.
the 27th of May, which is actually the most important part of this conversation, that is you telling us about the summit. Just briefly, in a minute or two, tell us about, UN Habitat's work in Africa and also particularly in Kenya.
Yeah. Actually, UN Habitat has been here for the past 40 years. I've been as the executive director of UN Habitat since January last year.
Last year, yes.
And our mandate is we want to be also given by the member state, especially after 2016 Habitat 3 in Quito, Ecuador, where we are the global leaders of urbanization and cities and human settlement, and especially implementing and monitoring the Sustainable Development Goal 11, where to make cities sustainable, resilient, and also safe for people, and to be an inclusive, leaving no one and no space behind. So our mandate is to look into the urbanization, human settlement, and how we can work globally. And UN Habitat, we have in 93 country presence, and we have 4 regional office. One is in Fukuoka in Japan for Asia Pacific. We have in Cairo for Arab state. We have in Nairobi for the Africa, and also we have in Rio for the Latin America. And we have a liaison office in New York and also in Brussels. And hopefully we can open our office in Geneva.
Wow.
So our present and our work is in global, and especially is just to fulfill our vision to provide a quality of life for all.
Sure.
In the urbanizing world. That is our vision.
Sure. And before we wrap up, you need to tell us about the summit now, which, as I said, is taking place from next week, Monday, the first ever assembly in Nairobi. And before you tell us about it, there's a statement or a quote that you said, which is, if we want to have a chance of achieving the sustainable development goals, we need to get our cities right, right? Great. So what would you tell our viewer about the summit? What do we expect in the next week from, that is from Monday?
Yeah, UN Habitat Assembly is the first assembly, is the highest decision-making platform for urbanization, and we are expecting 193 member states to come to Nairobi and talk about urbanization and share the experience and share the best practices, not only with the with us, because we will be also bringing in the national government, the regional government, and the stakeholders, and also the young people and the women coming in together with our Habitat Assembly. And we will also have our resolution and our strategic plan to be approved at that time. And one of the outcomes hopefully will be the ministerial declaration, where the ministers who are attending and the head of state who are attending for the Habitat Assembly will declare their commitment towards in their nation, in their countries, what they would like to do to make their cities right, and also to implement the new urban agenda to achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goal. And the outcome that we would like to see on the UN Habitat is that we would like to be the global leaders on urbanization, cities, and human settlement. We will be also having our governance structure been created. One is the executive board will be created to look into our oversights, and hoping that with this government structure we will have our funding, and also can implement our strategic plan 2020 and 2025 that to be approved by the Assembly next week. And for Kenya, I think this will be really 4,000 people registered already.
Wow.
It will be a boost for Kenyan economy. And there will be also the business assembly, the business dialogue. The business leaders will be coming here and talk about innovation. I think it's also very important for Kenya when we talk about affordable housing, about the solid waste management, and also about providing the basic facilities. And also when you talk about innovation, there will be a place, I think is the moment that we're waiting for. We will be around 87 exhibits on urban solution. And we will have our side event, nearly 57 side event. And from all walks of life, I'm very, very excited to see this thing happen, and I pray that it will be a successful event for the first Habitat Assembly in Kenya, in Nairobi.
It definitely will, and we definitely wish you the very best.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Ms. Maimuna Mohammed Sharif, the Executive Director, UN Habitat. Madam, we're pleased to have you in our studios. Of course, she was speaking to us ahead of the first ever assembly in Nairobi that will take place from the 27th of May to 31st of May. That is next week in Gigiri, Nairobi. Thank you so much, Madam, for joining us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.